Hello everyone, my name is Romy Hermont. I'm a product owner at Swiss Aviation Software in the Human Resources and Quality team. And today I will present to you the AMOS to AMOS service approval request. So who is this service for? So this service is for any AMOS customer that has an AMOS Central connectivity that wants to work with other AMOS customers, so other AMOS system, and wants and needs to exchange approval requests and to send them, to receive them. Exactly what does this service do? So this service sends approval requests and receives approvals between two AMOS systems. And now I will show you a common use case that you can have with this service. So here you can see I have on one side an airline and on the other side a camel. The airlines needs to create a work order and needs the approval of the camel to work on it. So they send it via the AMOS to AMOS service approval request, so via AMOS Central. Once the camel receives it, they analyze it, they approve it, and then the approval comes back to the airline. Other way around, once this is done, the camel wants to send a bill because they did some work for the airlines, so they need some money from them, so they send it. The airline receives it, approves it, and then the approval is sent back to the camel via AMOS Central through this AMOS to AMOS service approval request. To have this service, you need to configure the sender first. So first you need to connect to your AMOS system to AMOS Central. Then you need to configure your export settings either in AMOS to AMOS service, AMOS to AMOS APN if you have 24/6 or more, or through AMOS Central Cockpit APN. Then once this is configured, you need to configure any kind of approval in approval control configuration. So it can be for a work order, it can be for any event, anything inside AMOS that requires an approval from an external AMOS user. As for the receiver, it's kind of the same as for the sender. So first you need to connect your AMOS system to AMOS Central. Then you need to configure your import settings inside AMOS to AMOS or inside AMOS Central Cockpit. And then here you need to configure the external request inside AMOS approval control configuration. So to receive the approval request from other AMOS users, external AMOS users. And exactly how does this service work? So now I'm going to show you, I'm going to make you a demonstration of the AMOS to AMOS approval request service. So here you can see I have two AMOS. On the left, I have the sender, and on the right, I have the receiver. So for the sender, I'm going to first activate it as the sender, as you can see on the top, and I'm going to create a new link with a new address. So we add it here, activate it, add the AMOS address that was first defined in address administration, and we add afterwards the AMOS Central address. Now it's done. Now, as you remember, the second step was to configure the export settings. So here in the export, we have different options. We can exclude the report. I decide to exclude it. You can exclude remarks also, and you can also exclude specific fields that you can select. Like you can multi-select, you can select everything, for instance, for the work order here, or just specific ones, and so on. Here I decide to keep it everything like visible since I don't show the report. Then as a receiver, I activate at the bottom the receiver. I enter the AMOS address that was also defined in address administration. I select it, and then I add the AMOS Central address so that we can have this exchange of data between the two AMOS systems. Now that it's done, as for the export, I can configure my import. You have different fields, you can put it in queue, which is recommended, so that if there is any error, you can still, like, once it's resolved, receive the import. So now that it's done, the third step was to configure the AMOS approval control configuration in AMOS. So here, as the sender, in this case, I want an approval for my work order that has an AOG risk. So I create my rule. In my rule, I create the rule view here. So I want the rule output boolean to be AOG risk, which means that every time I put the work order as AOG risk, it will raise an approval request. And who should approve? So here is the difference. As for the common approval within your system, you have to select AMOS Central, and here you can select the address that you set up within the approval request inside AMOS to AMOS or AMOS Central Cockpit. So now I save and I do the configuration for the receiver. Here it's a little bit different. We go in external request, and then here we create the rule. To create this rule, either you can create a generic one, which is recommended first, so that you're sure that you will receive all the approvals. So rule output boolean, just put true. So every time you receive an external approval from the address, your AMOS Central address, you will get the import. But here we're going to create a specific rule to show you that we can also have specific cases. So I want to have a rule where I can approve only for a specific aircraft type. So here I choose the A320, which is set in our AMOS as 32S. And for a parameter, you need to get the name of the parameter, which will be AC type. But if you don't recall the exact name, you can still find them here. In the available parameters here, you can see aircraft type. I can set it. And now I'm good. I can add my approver, which will be here my user. So you can select here, as for all the approval configuration that you do within your system, AMOS user, job code, anything that you want. I select, I save, and now I can start working. I go in my work order, I create one for my sender, so new system work order. I decide that this will be a PIRUP. I continue, I add all the details. So here I will first start with A320. I select 8th chapter, I enter all the fields that are required. I continue. I can add all the description that I want. So it's a work order when you create it, and so on. So it works exactly the same as when you create any work order. It doesn't change anything. Of course, for this service, then I will sign it and finish. Now that it's finished, since my rule is only for AOG cases, so I have to tick it, and here in this case I will have the approval required. So you can see we can add remarks as for any approval, and you can add links. You can add everything. There is no change between this approval request to an external AMOS user through the approval request AMOS to AMOS service, rather than one that you have inside your AMOS within your system. So now it has been sent. As the receiver, we go into approval control board, and I see the one I have to respond to. So I have the first one, you see it's been received through the rule that I set up, receive approval. You can see that there is not the remark because I said at exclude the remarks inside my settings. And now I can approve it. So now that this is approved, we go back in approval control board with as the sender, with the one that I created with my user. I search, and here you can see that I received the approval. And on this one, I have my report. But on the other one, I don't have it. And that is because when I did my export configuration settings, I decided that I wanted to exclude the report, but of course you can include it if you want it. And now I will show you another use case. So I will create a work order this time, but for an aircraft that is a 787. So I choose here one of my aircraft that is not an A320. I add all the data, fill in the ATA chapter, don't forget, continue, you can add here all the description for your work order and so on. For demo purposes, I just do like the required data, and then we put it as AOG risk. Since we defined a rule for every AOG risk, I will still receive the request approval, but here, as a receiver, I will not receive the approval. Here, as you can see, it's still the same state, but if we go in aim logging, here you will see that I received, I receive an export, but I cannot import it since I didn't define any rule for anything than an A320. So here is why the generic rule for approval request receiving can be quite important. So now I'm finished with my demonstration, and if you want to purchase this service, if you are interested and you want to know about the conditions and the potential extra cost, you can reach out to our marketing and sales team via the support tool, or you can contact us directly. Thank you everyone for joining this presentation. I hope it helped you understand the product, and I wish you all a great day.